A black dog appears, guarding a grave no one dares to approach. A young daughter-in-law uncovers letters, secrets, and truth buried for decades. But what she discovers will change everything she thought she knew about her family, and threaten to unravel her world. Will she dare to face the darkness that has been waiting all along? The truth is closer than she imagines, but can she survive it? The black dog appeared suddenly, its fur glistening like wet midnight under the pale moonlight. It moved with a strange intensity, its low growl vibrating through the cold night air. Crouched at the edge of the old cemetery, Linh, the young daughter-in-law, felt her heart tighten in a mix of fear and fascination. The path to her father-in-law's grave was overgrown, with weeds clawing at her feet and the scent of damp earth rising into the chill. She had always avoided this part of the property, believing the stories whispered by the villagers, stories of restless spirits and hidden secrets. But tonight, the black dog was waiting, unmoving, as if guarding something she was meant to see. Every instinct told her to retreat, yet something stronger pulled her forward. The dog's eyes, an unnatural amber, seemed to peer straight into her soul. Its growl softened, becoming almost a warning, a signal that she must understand before it was too late. Linh stepped closer, the frost crunching beneath her shoes, each breath leaving a ghostly trail in the air. She noticed the grave's surface was disturbed, the earth freshly turned, as though it had been hiding a secret beneath for years. A shiver ran down her spine, a mix of horror and anticipation. Her fingers brushed the soil at the edge of the mound, uncovering fragments of an object that should not have been there. The black dog circled her, eyes never leaving her movements, as if guiding her hands toward the truth. Lin's mind raced, memories of whispered arguments and unexplained disappearances flooding her thoughts. She dug deeper, uncovering a small, rusted box. The metal was cold, almost burning against her skin, and inside lay letters and photographs that no one in the family had ever spoken of. Each piece she held revealed shadows of a life carefully hidden, of betrayals and secrets older than she had imagined. The black dog sat back on its haunches, silent now, watching as Lin's hands trembled with the weight of revelation. A part of her wanted to run, to flee from the truth before it consumed her entirely. But another part demanded she understand, demanded she face what had been buried not only in the earth, but within the walls of her own family. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the dog let out a long, low howl, a sound that seemed to carry both warning and invitation. Linh knew that what she had uncovered was only the beginning. The full story, the truth that would shake her world, had not yet revealed itself. She looked into the amber eyes of the dog, and in that gaze she understood that she could not turn back. The secrets beneath the soil were calling her forward, into a darkness that promised revelation and danger in equal measure. The night had ended, but the story had just begun. Linh held the box close to her chest, the cold metal pressing into her palms, as though it carried the weight of every hidden truth in the family. The wind stirred through the trees, whispering across the graveyard like soft voices from the past. The black dog followed her every step, silent but vigilant, its gaze never wavering. She moved toward the old family house, the box tucked carefully beneath her coat. The air inside was thick with dust and the faint scent of decay, a reminder that time had not healed all wounds. Every corner of the house seemed alive, carrying faint echoes of arguments, laughter, and moments of sorrow that no one spoke about. In the dim light of the living room, Linh opened the box. Photographs spilled across her lap, faces she knew and others she did not, some smiling, some frozen in expressions of fear or pain. Letters followed, each one more unsettling than the last, written in hurried, almost frantic script. The first letter revealed her father-in-law's hidden dealings, a network of secrets that reached far beyond the family. The next contained confessions, accusations, and warnings carefully concealed from the younger generation. Each line etched fear into her heart, yet also demanded understanding, demanding that she connect the dots others had ignored for decades. Outside, the black dog growled, low and measured, as though sensing something approaching. Lin's eyes lifted to the window, where shadows moved between the trees, unnatural shapes slipping through the mist. She could not tell if they were animals, people, or something else entirely. Her hands shook as she read on. The letters spoke of betrayals that had destroyed marriages, friendships that had been sabotaged, and a promise of revenge that had never been fulfilled. It was as if her father-in-law had left her a map, a guide to uncovering the truth. But the final destination was never clearly written. A sudden noise upstairs made her start. The floorboards creaked under invisible weight, or perhaps under memories that refused to rest. The dog moved to the doorway, tail stiff, ears pricked, as Lynn strained to hear beyond the walls. She knew she should stop, leave the house, bury the letters back into the soil of secrets where they had been hidden. But curiosity held her, pulling her deeper into the labyrinth of truth. Each revelation seemed to demand another, each piece of key that unlocked doors she had not even known existed. Hours passed. The sky outside shifted from the pale gray of dawn to the heavy light of mid-morning. Yet inside, time seemed suspended. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, and the letters whispered in her mind, their warnings and confessions blending with the howls of the dog outside. Then she found it, a single folded note, yellowed and brittle, hidden beneath the others. It was addressed to her. The handwriting was unmistakable, yet the signature was not one she recognized. She paused, hand trembling over the paper. The dog stepped closer, placing a heavy paw on her ankle as if urging her to read, yet warning her of what was to come. She inhaled deeply, knowing that whatever she would discover next might change everything. She unfolded the note carefully, but the words were smudged, as though someone had tried to erase them. A chill ran through her spine as she realized the final message was not meant to be read fully. Not yet. It hinted at a truth so dangerous that the writer had left only fragments, a riddle meant to pull her forward into a path she could not yet see. The black dog lowered its head, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Outside, a distant bell tolled, slow and deliberate, marking the passage of something older than herself, older than the house, older than the grave she had visited. Lynn held the note in trembling hands, her mind racing with questions she could not answer. The shadows in the corners seemed to shift closer, listening, waiting. And yet, the truth, the revelation that could shatter everything, remained just out of reach, suspended, teasing her like a ghost at the edge of perception. She swallowed hard, knowing that the next step would take her deeper than she had ever imagined. The letters, the photographs, the black dog, and the note, they were all pieces of a puzzle she had no choice but to solve. But the ending, the resolution, the full story, remained hidden. The wind stirred again through the house, louder this time, carried with the faint sound of footsteps from a room she had not entered. Lynn froze. The dog growled softly. And in that moment, she realized that the past she had unearthed was not finished with her. It was watching, waiting, and drawing her forward into a darkness that promised answers, yet refused to reveal them. The story had begun, and it would not end here. Lynn's eyes followed the shadow across the floor, its movement deliberate, yet strangely fluid, as though it belonged to neither the past nor the present. The black dog stood beside her, silent but alert, its body tense, ears swiveling toward the source of disturbance. Every instinct screamed at her to run, yet something invisible held her in place, pulling her deeper into the mystery. She took a cautious step toward the hallway, the floorboards creaking under her weight like a whispered warning. The air smelled heavier here, thick with dust, damp wood, and something else, something metallic, faint but unmistakable. It made her stomach twist and her pulse race. At the end of the hallway, a door that had always been locked now stood slightly ajar. A pale light seeped from inside, dancing along the walls, shifting and flickering as though alive. The dog's growl was low now, more a rumble of caution than threat, warning her that whatever lay beyond that door was not meant for casual discovery. Lynn's hands trembled as she reached for the handle. It was cold, almost unnaturally so, and the wood beneath her fingers seemed to pulse faintly, like it was part of a hidden heartbeat within the house itself. She pushed the door open slowly, half expecting it to resist her touch. The room was empty. No furniture, no signs of life, nothing but dust swirling in the thin beams of light from a broken window. Yet the sensation of being watched was overwhelming. Every shadow seemed to stretch unnaturally, curling and twisting like smoke in shapes she could not fully recognize. Her gaze fell to the floor, where something caught the sunlight, a single footprint, dark and smudged, leading toward the corner of the room. It was too large for any human, too perfect in its shape for a natural anomaly. Lynn felt the hairs on her arms rise, a cold prickle of awareness creeping from the base of her neck to the tips of her fingers. The dog stepped closer to the footprint, sniffing, growling softly, but refusing to move further. Lynn bent down, tracing it with her fingertip. The ground beneath was soft, as though freshly disturbed, and her finger came away streaked with something dark, almost like ink, yet not quite. A sudden noise behind her made her spin around, heart hammering in her chest. The hallway was empty. No footsteps, no whispers, no movement beyond the shifting shadows. Yet the door to the room closed on its own, a sharp thud echoing through the house, leaving only Lynn and the dog within. She felt drawn to the corner where the footprint ended. There, half buried beneath the dust, lay a small trapdoor, hidden so skillfully that she could not have noticed it without the footprint leading her there. Her pulse accelerated as she knelt beside it, brushing the dust aside to reveal an old, rusted latch. The dog circled, ears back now, a warning in its stance that something waited below. Lynn's hand hovered over the latch, caught between fear and the insatiable need to know. Her mind screamed at her to stop, yet she could not resist. With a deep breath, she lifted the latch. The trapdoor creaked open slowly, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness, so complete it seemed to swallow the very light of the room. The smell hit her immediately, damp stone, earth, and something metallic like blood or rusted iron. She glanced at the dog. It did not move forward, but did not leave either, its amber eyes reflecting the darkness below, warning her that the secrets beneath were alive, waiting for her to step across the threshold. She took one step down. The darkness pressed closer, cold and suffocating, a tangible weight on her chest. Another step. The dog's low growl echoed faintly behind her, vibrating through the stairs, a sound that carried both caution and inevitability. The staircase ended at a landing, and there, etched into the stone wall, were words that made her freeze. They were old, carved with painstaking precision, yet the meaning was clear, a warning or perhaps a promise, that some truths were never meant to be unearthed. The dog whimpered softly, shifting its stance, as if to remind her that turning back was still an option. But Lynn could not turn back. The box, the letters, the photographs, the note, all of it had led her here. And something deep inside her knew that what waited below was a final piece of a puzzle she had not yet fully comprehended. She inhaled, steadying her trembling hands. The darkness seemed to thrum, alive, almost breathing. Lynn took another step forward, and then another. Then she stopped. A faint light flickered from below, casting long shadows that danced and twisted like living things. A sound echoed softly. Footsteps, or perhaps something heavier, moving with purpose she could not see. Her hand hovered over the next step, the trapdoor closing slowly behind her. The dog's growl turned into a low, mournful howl that resonated through the stone walls, vibrating through her bones. And then silence. Lynn waited, heart pounding, every nerve alert. The footsteps had stopped, but the air itself seemed charged, expectant. Something was watching, and it was waiting for her next move. She knew the truth was closer than ever, yet still, it remained just out of reach. And in that suspended moment, she realized that the story was no longer hers to control. It had begun to control her. And whatever lay ahead would change everything, though the ending, just like the light flickering below, might never come. The black dog shifted beside her, tail stiff, amber eyes fixed on the darkness. And Lynn took a deep breath, knowing that she would have to descend into whatever waited below, with no turning back. The trapdoor remained open, the stairs leading into the shadows, and the house waited in silence, holding its secrets like a predator waiting for its prey. Lynn's foot hovered over the first step, the darkness below swallowing the faint glow from above. Every muscle in her body tensed, yet a force stronger than fear pushed her forward. The black dog stayed at the edge of the stairs, silent now, as if acknowledging that this path was hers alone. The air smelled heavier the deeper she descended, a mix of damp stone, rust, and something indescribably ancient. Each step echoed, bouncing off walls that seemed to lean in closer, narrowing the space until it felt like the darkness itself was pressing against her chest. The letters in her pocket, rattled softly with her movements, reminding her that the secrets above had led her here for a reason. Halfway down, she felt it, a sudden chill that traveled up her spine and settled in her bones. The staircase seemed endless, though she knew it could not be more than a few dozen steps. Every shadow flickered unnaturally, as if alive, stretching and contracting with the rhythm of a heartbeat she could feel but not hear. A faint whisper brushed against her ear, soft, indistinct, almost carried on the breath of the house itself. She froze, straining to understand, but the darkness swallowed the sound before it could form into words. The dog shifted, placing a paw on the first step, as if signaling her to proceed, yet warning her that she must tread carefully. At the bottom, the stairs opened into a chamber she had never known existed. Stone walls curved in a way that made the room feel like the hollow of a giant ribcage. The faint light that seemed to come from nowhere revealed strange markings etched into the floor and walls, symbols that were both beautiful and terrifying. Lynn's gaze fell to the center of the room. A pedestal stood alone, covered in dust, yet the outline of an object beneath suggested it had been recently moved. The air vibrated softly, carrying the echo of something or someone, watching her from the shadows beyond her vision. She took a tentative step forward. The dog stayed at the entrance, growling low, the sound resonating in the hollow chamber like a warning bell. Lynn's fingers brushed the pedestal, and a faint pulse of energy or fear seemed to travel through her hand, up her arm, into her chest. The letters she had carried all these hours suddenly felt heavier, pressing against her mind as if urging her to see what the pedestal held. She bent closer, and in the faint light, she could just make out the edges of a small, sealed container, its surface engraved with symbols that made her stomach twist with unease. It called to her curiosity, whispered promises of truths long buried, truths she knew could change everything. A sound echoed behind her, a soft scrape on stone. She turned, heart hammering, but saw only shadows stretching along the walls, twisting and retreating as if avoiding detection. The dog's growl sharpened, almost human in its intensity, warning her that she was not alone. She reached for the container. The moment her fingers touched the cool surface, the whispers intensified, surrounding her, filling her mind with fragments of memories that were not hers. Faces, events, betrayals, cries. Everything mingled into a chaotic storm that threatened to overwhelm her senses. Lynn drew a deep breath, forcing herself to focus. She opened the container slowly, expecting revelation, confrontation, perhaps even danger. Inside lay a folded note, sealed with a wax emblem she did not recognize. The writing was elegant, precise, yet it carried a weight, a threat unspoken but understood. She unfolded it, but the words shifted under her gaze, moving like liquid on the page. The meaning eluded her. The message hinted at the next step, a secret deeper than the one she had uncovered, but before she could decipher it, the paper became blank, leaving only the faintest trace of ink, like a shadow of a warning. The dog stepped forward suddenly, growling, ears back. The chamber seemed to inhale, the air growing thicker, heavier, as if the house itself were aware of her presence and her discovery. A distant sound came from above, the faint creak of floorboards from a room she had left behind, but it held a rhythm that did not match her footsteps. Lynn glanced back toward the staircase. The trapdoor above was slightly ajar, a thin sliver of light flickering like a signal, but nothing moved beyond it. She knew she could leave, retreat to the familiar, yet something stronger than fear urged her to remain. Whatever awaited her in this chamber was unfinished, incomplete, a secret dangling just out of reach, teasing her with its existence. Hours could have passed, or minutes. Time seemed meaningless in this suspended darkness. The dog sat at her feet, eyes glowing faintly, watching, waiting, as if knowing that the most important revelation was still to come. Lynn's hands hovered over the note, over the container, over every shadowed corner, and she realized that the story she had uncovered was not ending. It was only beginning. A faint scratching sound came from the far wall, soft at first, then deliberate enough to make her pulse quicken. She froze, heart in her throat, listening, but the sound stopped abruptly, leaving only silence heavier than before. The dog growled softly, low and warning, eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the pedestal. The note in her hand seemed to pulse faintly, as if alive, yet still its message remained elusive, incomplete, suspended. The chamber seemed to breathe with her hesitation, waiting for her to make the next move that might never come. And in that waiting, she realized that some truths were designed to haunt the edge of comprehension, never fully revealed, always just beyond reach. The black dog rose, amber eyes meeting hers, and for a moment, Lynn felt the weight of destiny pressing down. She knew that the next discovery was imminent, yet she could not force it, could not call it into existence. All she could do was wait, on the edge of revelation, in the half-light of mystery, as the house whispered its secrets without end. And so Lynn remained, hand over the note, eyes on the shadows, heartbeat echoing against stone walls, suspended between fear and understanding, knowing that the story she had unearthed would continue to pull her forward, into darkness, into truth, into secrets that might never fully reveal themselves. The chamber waited. The dog waited. And Lynn waited, knowing that the story had no conclusion, only the endless unfolding of shadows and whispered truths, each one more tantalizing, more terrifying than the last. Lynn remained frozen in the chamber, the note trembling in her hands as though it were alive. The black dog's amber eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, unblinking, its presence both protective and warning. The air felt thick, almost viscous, each breath she drew carrying the metallic tang of iron and damp stone. A faint scratching sound returned from the far wall, deliberate this time, rhythmic, like fingernails tracing letters across the stone. Her heart raced, muscles coiled, yet she could not force herself to look away. The shadows in the corners seemed to stretch toward her, curling and twisting like living smoke, teasing the edges of her vision. She took a careful step forward, the stone floor cold beneath her bare fingers as she knelt by the pedestal. The container lay open now, the note before her, blank yet heavy with the promise of revelation. The letters she had carried all these hours seemed thrum in her pocket, whispering fragments of warnings and confessions she could not yet decipher. The dog shifted, low growl, vibrating through the chamber, tail stiff. It sniffed the air, ears pricked, as if sensing something she could not yet see, something waiting beyond the pale light. Lynn's fingers hovered over the edge of the pedestal, drawn by the invisible pull of the secret it guarded. A sudden draft swept through the chamber, brushing past her neck and shoulders, carrying a sound, a faint exhale, almost a whisper breath not her own. She turned her head slowly, eyes straining in the darkness, but saw nothing, only the shadows dance, curling and stretching across the stone walls in shapes her mind could not fully comprehend. She swallowed, trying to steady herself, every nerve on high alert. The note seemed to pulse faintly under her fingertips, its blank surface alive with untold stories. The pedestal itself seemed to hum, vibrating through her hands and upper arms, a subtle, persistent energy she could not ignore. Then, from somewhere deeper in the chamber, a sound echoed. Not footsteps, not scraping, but a low, rhythmic tapping, like a heartbeat out of sync with her own. It was distant, yet carried through the stone, pressing against her ears, demanding attention. She leaned closer to listen, her breath catching, but the sound stopped as suddenly as it had begun, leaving only the oppressive silence behind. The dog growled again, short and sharp, glancing toward the shadows in the corner of the room. Lynn followed its gaze and froze. For a moment, she thought she saw a movement, a shape, darker than the darkness around it, shifting just beyond the edge of her vision. She blinked, and it was gone. Her pulse quickened, mind racing with the fragments of the past she had uncovered, the letters, the photographs, the hidden room beneath the house. Everything pointed to something greater, something buried beneath layers of silence, secrets that had been kept for decades. And yet, the full truth remained tantalizingly out of reach. She reached for the note again, fingers trembling, as though the paper itself resisted her touch. The air seemed to grow heavier, pressing down on her shoulders, her chest, her mind. Every shadow in the room seemed to pulse, alive with intent, yet no figure emerged. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, and Lynn realized she could wait forever and the next revelation might never arrive. The dog moved closer, nudging her hand with its cold nose, a silent promise that she was not alone. Its growl softened, almost comforting. Yet the tension remained, a line drawn taut between fear and curiosity. She realized then that the secret she sought was not merely hidden. It was alive, teasing, and refusing to be fully claimed. Lynn sat back on her heels, hands gripping the pedestal, eyes scanning the chamber. Every instinct told her the story was far from over, that the house, the shadows, and even the black dog were all pieces of a puzzle she could not yet complete. And in the waiting, in the anticipation, she understood that the most powerful truths were those that hovered just beyond reach, unresolved, eternal, like the faint pulse of something breathing in the dark. The chamber seemed to lean in closer, the shadows pressing forward. The faint tapping, the whispers, the energy in the note, all lingered in the air, suspended. Time itself felt suspended, each second stretching into infinity, leaving Lynn poised at the edge of revelation that might never come. The dog settled at her side, tail still, eyes fixed on the darkness. Lynn's gaze returned to the blank note, and though her mind screamed for answers, the words remained elusive, shifting and silent. The room seemed to breathe with her hesitation, alive in the waiting, teasing her, holding back what she most wanted to know. And in that stillness, she understood something profound. Some truths are never meant to be fully revealed. Some stories are not written to end. They exist only in the waiting, in the tension, in the space between fear and discovery. The chamber waited. The shadows waited. The black dog waited. And Lynn waited, heart hammering, mind racing, knowing that what came next might never arrive. But she could not turn away. She could not leave. The story had her now, and it would not let her go. The note lay in her hands, blank yet heavy. The shadows pressed closer, alive and patient, and the house waited, as it always had, holding its secrets just out of reach, suspended in the dark. Lynn sat in the chamber, the black dog at her side, both of them enveloped in a thick, pressing darkness. The note lay in her hands, still blank, yet somehow heavier than any truth she had ever known. For a long moment, she said nothing, did nothing, only listened. The faint hum of the house, the whispers of the shadows, the soft rhythm of her own heartbeat. Then, slowly, she let the letters, photographs, and the small box slide from her hands. They fell to the stone floor with a muted clatter, the sound echoing faintly, swallowed almost instantly by the room. It was as though by letting go, she released some of the weight that had pressed so relentlessly on her mind and spirit. The black dog nudged her gently, resting its head against her shoulder, and for the first time, Lynn allowed herself to breathe without fear. She realized that the house, the secrets, the shadows, they had always been a part of her family, part of the legacy she could neither fully escape nor completely understand. Some truths were meant not to be grasped, but to be acknowledged, accepted, and respected. The morning light began to creep through the cracks of the chamber, thin beams cutting across the stone floor and illuminating the dust motes in the air. The oppressive weight of the darkness lifted slightly, replaced by a quiet clarity. She stood slowly, brushing herself off, the black dog following her every movement. Lynn ascended the stairs, each step deliberate, measured, carrying with it the knowledge that she had faced the hidden heart of her family's past. The trapdoor closed behind her, the click of the latch final, yet strangely comforting. Outside, the sun had begun to rise, painting the cemetery in gold and shadow, softening the edges of the graves that had once seemed so forbidding. She knelt briefly at her father-in-law's grave, placing a single hand upon the cold stone. She did not speak. Words were unnecessary. She only felt a quiet understanding, a connection to the past that did not demand answers, only acknowledgement. The black dog stayed by her side, silent, eyes bright and alert, its duty fulfilled yet never abandoned. Together, they walked back toward the house, the morning wind stirring the leaves, carrying the scent of damp earth and fresh beginnings. Though many questions remained, though the shadows of the past would linger, Lynn understood that some mysteries are not meant to be solved. They are meant to shape the courage and wisdom of those who face them. As she stepped inside, the first warm rays of sunlight spilling into the hallway, Lynn allowed herself to feel the smallest spark of peace. The house still held its secrets. The shadows still whispered, but she had emerged from the darkness stronger, unbroken, and aware that life's truths are often a journey, not a destination. And the black dog followed, unwavering, as silent witness to her courage, guardian of the unseen, and companion on the path she would continue to walk, forever shaped by the mystery she had faced. The story ended, not with a revelation, but with understanding, and a quiet knowledge that some truths, like the shadows themselves, are eternal,